Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools for creating beautiful home decor on a budget. Today I am here with 7 quick and easy Christmas home decor DIYs, so let's get crafting. For today's first DIY, I'm going to be making a Christmas sign using 3 of these bamboo cutting boards, the galvanized metal Christmas words, some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby, some burlap ribbon, and 2 of the 5-gallon paint stir sticks. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some Mod Podge, brush on a light layer, spritz some water on my paper, and I'm going to adhere that down to one side of each of my 3 bamboo cutting boards. I get a lot of questions of why I spritz some water on the paper, and it just really helps it stick without making bubbles. Once those are dry, I'm going to flip them over on my cutting mat and using my fingertip knife, go ahead and cut all the way around to get off any of that excess scrapbook paper. This is a really amazing tool. It's in my Amazon storefront if you are interested, and it's like $7. It's the best $7 you will spend if you do any crafting like this. Once I have all 3 of those trimmed around, I am going to also take some sandpaper and just clean up those edges. Now I want to space my 3 cutting boards so that I don't have to cut my 2 5-gallon paint sticks, but first I'm going to give them a coat of my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, which is just a nice dark black. Now that those are dry, I have my 3 cutting boards spaced out, and I'm going to put some hot glue on my paint sticks and then just gently flip those over to attach my 3 cutting boards together. We'll do that on both sides and make kind of a ladder type of sign. So this is what it looks like on the front. Then I'm going to take some burlap ribbon. This happens to have a wire edge, which I don't want, so I'm trimming that off, and I wanted my ribbon to be a little more narrow. So I'm cutting 3 pieces of the same length and width, and I'm going to then put those across the top of each of my 3 cutting boards. You can see I just have them down maybe half of an inch from the top. Attach that with hot glue on both sides, and we'll let that dry. And then once we have all 3 of those dry, I will wrap them around the back and attach them as well and trim off any excess. Next, taking a set of the 3 Christmas galvanized metal words, we're going to put a little bit of hot glue on the back of the thicker parts of each letter and then just attach those down on our cutting boards. This is one of those quick and easy, very simple DIYs, but it's just going to look amazing when it's done. So I have peace, believe, and then on the bottom one, we will attach the word joy. Now the great thing about this is you could leave this like this, just plain with the burlap, but I'm going to go ahead and add a bow to each of my cutting boards. So here you can see I'm doing kind of a crisscross bow that's going to end up having 2 loops and 2 tails. This is just with one long piece of the burlap, and then we're just going to tie it with the jute twine in the center a couple times as a knot and to squish that center part together. And I'm going to make 3 of these, one for each of my bamboo cutting boards, one for each of the words. Then to layer on top of my burlap bow, I'm going to take some of these red and black buffalo check bows. These are from Dollar General. I didn't want that metal twist tie in the middle, so I'm going to just take the ribbon, I'm going to fold it in half and cut 2 pieces and just make a simple loop and tie that in the center with jute twine just to make a little bow that does not have any tails. So tying that in the center just like we did with the burlap ribbons, trimming off the excess, and then we're going to layer this on top with a little dot of hot glue as well. Next, once all 3 of my bows are layered up and attached, I'm going to take some of these garland ties from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut some smaller pieces that I can hot glue and tuck behind the little bows just to add a little bit of Christmas greenery and a little bit more festive look. But remember, you get like 10 or 12 of these in a pack for $1, and I'm using 1. So this is a very economical way to just add a little more enhancement to your projects. And my last finishing touch to cover up that jute twine in the center of each bow is to just hot glue a small tiny little silver bell from Dollar Tree right there in the center of each of our bows. And here's our finished project. This is about 2 feet tall and about, I think about 10 inches wide, and I just love this. This would make a great statement on a shelf, or you could hang this on a wall. If you are new to my channel today, welcome. I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. And if you are returning to my channel, welcome back. Thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. DIY number 2 is one I've wanted to make for a while, but I could not find these plastic candy dishes, but I finally did. I was so excited to make these lamp posts. I'm going to be using these vases and these plastic candy dishes. You can see I did take my vase and I spray painted it with a matte or satin finish black, and then I'm going to use a combination of E6000 like you can see I did there, and then in between I'm going to put some hot glue, and I'm going to lay this down on the bottom of the candy dish. This helps it stick by using the weight of the vase. Now there was this little lip kind of at the bottom of the candy dish, and I wanted to dress it up a little bit. So this is the pine garland tie from Hobby Lobby. It's a little bit narrower than the ones at Dollar Tree, but you could definitely use the ones from Dollar Tree for this as well. Just kind of form it around that circular base and hot glue it into place. Now I have seen where people spray like a frosted spray paint on your candy dish. You could do that as well. I just left mine clear. Now this is another way to make a bow that has 6 loops. You just kind of go back and forth so that you have 3 loops on either side, and then you'll get your other tail right there. You cut a little bit of extra. Leaving it like this, just tie it in the center with jute twine, or here I'm going to use a really thin floral wire. Whatever you have on hand is just fine. I've seen people use pipe cleaners as well. Then because this ribbon has some wire edging to it, you just kind of play with it and fluff out each of the loops until you get them to lay how you want them. So I did make 2 of these for my craft show, and if you keep watching to the end, you'll see how I did with those. So just go ahead and dovetail the edges there, and then we're going to glue this right below the candy dish on the vase, and these are just so adorable and really simple to make. $1 for the candy dish, $1 for the vase, and then a few extra items. You can see I also spray painted the top of the lamppost black. DIY number 3 is very similar to a project I did in a couple videos ago, but instead of using the arched windows from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use 3 of these wood pallets that you should be able to find in Crafter's Square. I'm going to use 3 for each and 1 of these crates for each as well. So I'm making 2, so I'm going to use 6 of the pallets and 2 of the crates. Now on all 6 of my little pallets here, I'm going to give them a coat of Antique Wax by Waverly, brushing it on, wiping off the excess, and then I'm also going to do the back sides. I just like everything to look nice and finished, and it really doesn't take that much more time to complete the backs and the sides as well. Then moving to my wood crates, and I'm also going to do 2 of these wood snowflakes from Dollar Tree. I'm going to give each of those a coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color white. I did do the entire outsides and the bottom. I think I even did the insides and for sure the edges of my 2 crates. Then to connect my 2 sets of 3 pallets together, I'm flipping them over to the back, and those 2 joints where 2 pallets come together, I'm going to use a couple of these jumbo craft sticks. I'm just cutting the pieces so that they will fit right there in that space. So I need to cut a total of 4 of these in order to connect my 2 sets of pallets. Now you could go back after you glue these on and paint them with the antique wax so they blend in, but I figured this is the back. It'll be either hanging on a wall or up against a wall on a shelf. So I did not do that, but you definitely could if you would somehow be able to see the backs. So hot gluing those in place and making sure that our 3 pallets are completely attached together before we move on to the next part of the project. That next step then is to come back to our crates, and I'm going to use some of this Titebond wood glue. Just do 3 small stripes there and attach this all the way down at the bottom of that first pallet, making sure it is evenly spaced and flush with the bottom of the pallet. We'll do this to both of them and then set those aside to dry. Then at the top pallet, we're going to hot glue one of these wood snowflakes right there and making sure the hole there is at the top. We'll cover that up in just a minute. I wanted to kind of give the white crates a little bit more of a rustic look, so I took some of my Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle and just dry brushed that on. You could do this step before you glue the crates on, but I didn't really think it mattered. So just dry brushing some of that on, and then you can sand it down a little bit if you get too much or want to just kind of blend it in a little bit better. So do that to both of your crates, and then to cover up that hole on the snowflake ornaments, I'm just tying a small simple bow with my black and white gingham ribbon from Hobby Lobby, and then we will trim those and hot glue those right at the top where that string hole is on each of the ornaments. Now I decided to use 2 of these milk bottle shaped bottles from I think I got these at a local dollar store, but I know they have something similar at Dollar Tree. I spray painted these black, and I'm going to take that same ribbon and just hot glue one little strip of it right there below the mouth of the bottle, just to dress it up a tiny little bit. But I just love the simplicity of the white and black with the antique wax. Now you could put whatever you want in these. If you don't hot glue the snowflake at the top, if you just hang it, you could definitely change this out for different seasons like we did with the arched window flower boxes. Here you can see I'm just putting some frosted eucalyptus and some berries in the bottles, and then I'm going to fill the rest of the crates with pine cones and a little bit of greenery. I love this because I can put these out at Christmas or for Christmas and then leave them up pretty much all winter because they have kind of just a general winter decor theme. And here's the finished look. Like I said before, if you don't glue those ornaments at the top, you could definitely change this out for different seasons. And this is a great alternative to the arched windows that I know are hard to find. If you love budget home decor videos, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up to let YouTube know that this is content you want to continue seeing. Going along with the theme of quick and easy Christmas decor, I wanted to use an item that is pretty much easy to find is these Pennant signs and any holiday gift bag from Dollar Tree. So I loved this one. Actually, this one might be from Walmart, but I know that Dollar Tree just has so many choices of gift bags. So grab one of these now I can't remember what it says, the pennants from Dollar Tree, and one gift bag that has a picture on it that you just like, that makes you happy, and cut out the picture. And then because this one is not tall enough height wise, I am going to also use a scrapbook paper that I felt kind of matched the theme of the bag, and I'm going to cut 2 strips, one for the top and one for the bottom of the pennant, just to fill in that space and just bring another dimension of color and texture. So here's my 2 strips. I believe these pennant signs are about 8 inches wide, and you can see here I'm just trying to figure out where I need to trim my bag in order for it to fit. First, I'm going to take some Mod Podge and put a little bit on my sign, spritz some water on my scrapbook paper, and I'm going to attach both of these pieces at the top and bottom before we cut our gift bag picture. Once those pieces of scrapbook paper are dry, you can flip over your pennant sign, and using your fingertip knife, go ahead and cut away those extra pieces. Now, this is what happens when you don't let the paper dry all the way. It kind of shreds a little bit, so take my mistake and learn from it. Make sure your scrapbook paper is completely dry before you try to trim the edges. Otherwise, you'll get kind of a mess like that. Then sand the edges to get those nice and crisp, and then we're ready to trim and attach our picture from the gift bag. I just loved this barn with the snow and the trees, and we're going to add a couple items to it as well to give it a little bit more dimension. But here I just kind of folded my bag of where I needed to cut it, and just get it close like we have done before. You can trim it with the fingertip knife once it is Mod Podged on. So that's all I'm going to do. Now I'm going to put some Mod Podge like we did with the scrapbook paper, and lay this down and let it dry, and then trim the edges. I did go ahead, you can see, and did the Mod Podge over the scrapbook paper as well, so everything has a nice uniform look. Another simple touch to dress up this sign is to just take a strip of hot glue and lay this black and white gingham ribbon across the top. Something very simple, but it adds a lot to your finished product. Then I found these little wreaths at Hobby Lobby. I decided to take one and hot glue it on the barn right where that wreath is in the picture. And of course, all of these are optional things you can do. I wanted to add some more snowflakes, so I pulled out this window cling I've used before and took some of these snowflake pieces and I just laid them on top of the picture. And then I'm going to go back with a little bit of this liquid glue, and just like we do with Mod Podge, just kind of spread it on the back of the window cling and lay it down like a sticker and let that dry completely. But I think these are just little added touches that you can do, like I said, to give more dimension and interest to your project rather than just putting a piece of a gift bag on there. Now this is some like sparkle glitter glue that I got from Walmart in there, not in the paint aisle, but where they have like the paper crafts, the scrapbooking and stuff. And I'm just squeezing a little bit on the garland on the Christmas tree, and then I'm going to trace each of the snowflakes with this. Again, just an added touch to give a little bit of sparkle and interest to the project. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some beads to the hanger. So this was a beaded garland in the Christmas aisle at Walmart. I am going to just cut it apart and use the beads for different projects. So this one was gray and white. I thought it was super cute to go with this pictures that kind of had grayish tones to it. I just detached one piece of the jute twine hanger from the pennant, strung my beads on, and then I just hot glued the end back onto the back of my pennant. And here is our project. We spent $1 on the gift bag and $1 on the pennant, and then our other little added elements here and there. And you also have the picture from the back of the bag that you could make something else with. Moving on to DIY number 5, I'm going to make another one of these houses from Dollar Tree. This one is very simple. I liked this stencil from a maker studio that says all is calm. And what I'm going to do is first, because I like to make my projects two-sided, is for the inside of the house, I just cut some wood scrapbook paper and I trimmed it to the outside, but then using my fingernail, you can see I'm marking where I need to cut it so that it'll fit inside the house. Just trim that again, put some Mod Podge down, and then attach that wood to the inside of the house. This is just to make your project two-sided, so when it's not Christmas anymore, you could turn it around and just use the wood side. So again, I spritzed my paper, get that inside, and then set that over so that it can dry. On the other side of the house, I wanted to use the back side. I'm just using this navy blue acrylic paint, and I am going to give the back and the sides of the house 2 different coats of that, and I believe I also then did Mod Podge over it. Again, this stencil, my gray colored stencils are from a maker studio, but they are interchangeable with the inks. So I'm actually using the chalk paste, this gold glitter chalk paste from Magnolia Design Company, and just using a small tiny little bit to go over the stencil that says all is calm. I liked this on the bottom left corner. Lift it up and we'll let that dry completely. This little wood star was from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint it with my gold Sharpie paint marker to go with the wording. Now I'm using some jute twine. I'm going to attach it with a little bit of hot glue on the inside of my house. We're going to wrap it a few times around and then trim the edge and hot glue the other end inside the house as well. This is a really inexpensive way to get that farmhouse look. Jute twine, if you buy it by the roll like this tiny little bit that I used on this house cost next to nothing. So a nice big roll of jute twine is definitely worth it if you like to make farmhouse crafts. Lastly, I'm just hot gluing my little gold star up and to the right of my house, and that is it. Really simple, really cute, and I could just see this with a little baby Jesus sitting next to it as well. And there's your other side. DIY number 6 is going to be a Christmas mini quad sign. I'm using one of these wooden trays from Dollar Tree and 4 of my Christmas mini stencils from Magnolia Design Company. These all come on one set, and I've seen in Etsy shops people selling individual little square signs like this, and when I saw this Dollar Tree wooden tray, I thought I could make one that has 4 different pictures. So I'm going to paint each of the sections of the tray a different color, and I'm doing all the back and the sides black, white, this fern green, which is a new color of Waverly chalk paint I found, and then the crimson red. You can see there I'm doing the back and then up on the edges, inside edges of each section. I'm not worrying about the front edges. You'll see what I'm going to do with that in just a second. So there's our 4 colors, and we will let that dry completely. On the outside edges and the back, I'm going to do the antique wax. I just love, again, how this looks with these colors, and again, it just gives our project a nice finished look. I'm curious if you guys have found these 4-section wood trays in your Crafter Square. I've only found them in one store so far, so I picked up a couple of them because I knew I could find something to do. Now these inside edges especially are really narrow, so instead of trying to paint them with a paintbrush, I'm taking my black paint marker from Elmer's that I get at Walmart, and I just did those edges so they're all black on the front of each of my sections. Now I picked out 4 of the Christmas minis. I think this page of stencils came with like 12. And I'm going to use 4 of these, and I'm going to use 4 different colors of the chalk paste to just make this little sign. So for my nativity on the black, I'm going to use white chalk paste, just brushing it on and making sure it gets in all the spaces of our stencil before we peel it up, and you can see we have a beautiful little nativity silhouette image. We'll do the same steps for all the other 3 sections of our project, and what I love about this, it is completely customizable. You could make a project like this for fall, for Halloween. You can make a non-seasonal one. These little minis are super cute, and I would say they measure about 2 to 3 inches in square. So using the green here for the package on the red chalk paint, and then I'm going to use that gold again that I used on the All Is Calm house to say Holly Jolly on the green section. And once that was dried completely, I did spray a layer of matte finish clear spray paint over top, and I just love how simple this looks with the beautiful Christmas colors. Thank you everyone who has supported me for my craft show that was yesterday. It was a very successful event, not just for myself, but for all the other crafters that were involved. We had 40 crafters, including myself, and vendors of home-based businesses as well. I'm going to try to, at the end of the video, put pictures of the items that I sold and how much I sold them for. So if you're interested in that information, be sure to watch all the way to the end of the video. My last project for today is this Jingle All the Way sled sign, using one of the Christmas sled signs from Dollar Tree, as well as a Jingle All the Way and some shiplap looking scrapbook paper and some ribbon. So the first thing I needed to do was deconstruct this sled. It is that pressed cardboard, so be really careful as you're peeling it apart, but I wanted to get the long runners separated so that I could paint those black. And because the paper started peeling off, I just went ahead and finished peeling that brown paper off the front of each of those long runners. Once I did get that off, I'm going to give both of these a coat of my black chalk paint in the color ink. I did take my little scraper and try to get off any glitter, just so that when we Mod Podge that shiplap paper, it won't have any bumps in it. So like I said, taking our ink chalk paint, we're going to give each of these long pieces and the sides and the front and the back a coat of our ink chalk paint. Then coming back to our 2 main pieces of our sled, we are going to Mod Podge this gray shiplap looking scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. Just again, a layer of Mod Podge, spritz the water, lay it down and smooth it out, and then set those aside to dry completely before you try to trim away the excess. Same thing on the little Merry Christmas part. For this part, the shiplap lines will be going horizontal instead of vertical, so you can fit it all on one piece of scrapbook paper. Then, now that it's completely dry, trimming it with our fingertip knife, and it works so much better when the paper is dry. I just love how adding a little bit of Mod Podged paper can just totally change the look, but we have the base of the sled from the Dollar Tree sign. Now that everything's dry, we're going to hot glue our 2 long pieces right back onto the back of the sled, and then add that top piece as well to put our sled back together before we embellish it with some other fun things like ribbon and greenery and bells. So now our sled is all put back together. We can flip it over and do that. You could definitely leave the Jingle All the Way wording how it was on the sign, but I did spray mine with a hammered metal spray paint just so it wasn't quite so shiny, and then we're just going to hot glue that right there onto the base of our sled. I love that gray scrapbook paper behind that metal wording, how it just pops out just a little bit. Now I'm taking this black and white ribbon and I'm doing what I did on the lamp posts. I'm going back and forth to make 3 loops on each side and then a tail at the beginning and a tail at the end. We'll tie that in the center with some jute twine and then fluff it out to attach to our sled. So just put a little bit of hot glue and attach that bow down. And then you can see I took a couple red jingle bells from Dollar Tree and glued those on the center to cover up the jute twine. Next, taking 4 more bells and some differing lengths of jute twine, I'm tying the bell at the bottom and I'm going to make these so I can hang them from the top of the sled, and then the bells will just hang at different lengths. I used the red bells. I thought it was really nice for them to just pop out from the gray of the sled. Taking another one of these garland ties and cutting it into little pieces, I'm going to do like I did on my first project today and just tuck some little pieces behind the ribbon to add some of that beautiful Christmas greenery color. For the bottom of my sled, that bottom left corner, I'm going to take this black and white checked ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut 4 lengths that are all the same length, and I'm going to crisscross them and tie them in the center with jute twine to make a very small, kind of what I call a messy bow. So it's just going to be crisscross, tie it with the jute twine, and then we will hot glue that down to the bottom left section of the sled. Then taking a couple more pieces of the garland tie, we're going to tuck those behind that small messy bow and add another red jingle bell as well to the center of that bow. And lastly, where it was a jute string hanger, we're going to use some more of my black and white checked ribbon and putting it through the 2 holes on the sled, tying it in a knot at the top. We're going to make this new hanger that goes along with the coloring of our project. And I just love this. I love the little pop of red and green on the black and white and gray. And again, it's one of those projects that you can customize for your color scheme and decor style. Thank you so much for joining me today for these quick and easy Christmas decor DIYs. Please let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. And remember, if you're wanting to get information on what sold at my craft show, keep watching.